Mary Matalin is a consummate political technician who has worked to elect Republican candidates, including presidents of the United States, for more than 10 years. She is married to one of the Democratic Party's top strategists, the man who orchestrated Bill Clinton's campaign victory in 1992. It is a pleasure and a personal joy to welcome Mary Matalin from the CBS studios in Washington, D.C., joining us live tonight. Mary, good evening, and thank you for joining us.
Tom, thanks for having me. We miss you so much, Info Brother.
Okay.
And your new studios are pretty hip.
Info Babe. Well, today I saw you were over at a restaurant in I believe it was Manhattan.
All right.
And you were introducing Dee Dee Myers, the former Clinton aide there, as your new co-host of Equal Time on CNBC. All right?
A permanent co-host.
You've been through...
She was not just a Clinton aide. She was the first female White House press secretary in the history of the White House, and the youngest. She's quite an accomplished
knowing
woman.
that you and she are on opposite sides of the political spectrum philosophically, how do you, as you were with Jane Wallace and others on your program, how do you create a rapport with these people? Even, I mean, you may despise what they think, but you must enjoy them as people.
Well, I get a lot of practice at home, being married to one. If you can't do it on the home front. If you can do it on the home front, you can do it almost anywhere. And the other thing is, there's an honor among hacks, you know, political hacks. We've all done the same thing. I watched her on the campaign. I watched her behind that White House podium, the toughest job in the administration, I think. And I've always had a lot of respect for her. She has a lot of wit and energy, and she's smart, and we like the same things. And she's been on the show as a guest and as a co-host. So we have been kindred spirits for a long time. I'm looking forward to it.
Terrific. It'll be nice to have a familiar face there beside you night after night rather than the guest du jour, so to speak.
Yes.
How much of your life is television? You know, you received a great deal of publicity for Equal Time, and I believe that you've, well, I guess this has not been announced yet, but I understand that you have just signed a deal with a radio network to do a 3-hour talk show on talk radio every day. I'm probably spilling the beans here, but I heard this weekend at a meeting outside of Los Angeles. How much a part of your life is broadcasting? Is it a big part of your life?
The TV is a lark in the sense that when I like it because it's fun and it's about topics and people and issues I like, and you know, that show has always been kind of a dinner conversation, and to the extent that it remains so, it is that part of my life. But I still do a lot of campaigning and speaking, and obviously we're having a Bambino, so it's in perspective. And I'm not in the whole TV thing. As you know, we're an outpost in Washington, D.C., and they've been very supportive from our mothership in Fort Lee, and Roger Ailes is who's my old boss on the campaigns, is the current boss at CNBC. So we're to the extent that we're an outpost and we get to focus on issues and people and things going on in Washington. It's sort of an ongoing part of my life, but the essence is still politics. And James is likely going to work on the Clinton campaign in '96, and I'll likely have some kind of advisory role in whoever our nominee's campaign is. So that's kind of still who I am.
What can you tell us about the 3-hour-a-day talk radio program still to be announced?
Nothing, buddy. Not much. I mean, nothing that I'm not given specific permission to really talk about it. You know how that is. But
I would assume it's going to be on, I hear, probably from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time, and that you'll be taking calls from the listeners and presenting your own political point of view.
Oh, will you come on?
What on, for 3 to 6 on the radio?
No, just for a call-in or something like that. Tell us what's going on the left coast.
Yeah, when would you like me to come on? Like, when will it be going on the air?
We're really still working out all that stuff. Seriously, I'm not trying to be evasive, but...
Well, you don't have to try. You're doing a great job. You talked about the Bambino. How has this changed your life? I mean, you've spent many years working very, very hard in a variety of tasks and jobs in the political scene, and all of a sudden you're going to be a mom, and that certainly has changed your life.
Stretch marks, that's a big change. You know, those hip bones aren't sticking anymore. No, it's a miracle. Every cliche that you could ever want to say about it, and she's kicking around now. It's just, it's a whole weird thing. I'm going to be 42 in August. I never thought I was going to have babies. Not that I didn't want them, but we're both, my husband and I, blessed with huge families, lots of kids, from whom we get lots of pleasure. So this is a miracle to us. He's going to be 51 this year, and I can't even begin to tell you what it's like. And we're crossed between nervous and excited and thrilled, and it's just going to be really something.
And you say she, so you know you're going to have a girl.
You know, when you're this age, they make you
right.
take every test known to mankind. And we started out really politically correct. We don't want to know, and within hours we wanted to know. And James wanted a girl, so he is in hog heaven. He will be, as all men always hope to be, in a constant state of female adoration.
What if the girl looks like James?
Well, I think she does look like James, because I've had to have a lot of sonograms, and she looks like a little serpent head, and I'm not kidding.
Let me ask you about your politics and how they were shaped over the years. Have you always been conservative? Have you always been Republican? Did you ever vote for a Democrat?
I grew up on the south side of Chicago, in South Chicago particularly, in Jesse Jackson's neighborhood, and which meant, of course, that I grew up a Democrat. My mother was a diehard FDR, JFK Democrat, and I really didn't think about it until I actually started studying politics, and in so thinking and studying and going over it in my mind, I became a conservative in college, I guess, or graduate school. So I was old enough to know what I was doing, and I've thought a lot of it since, and more since I've been doing the show. The really wonderful thing about Equal Time for me has been the ability to have it's been an educational process, because when you do campaigns, you sort of know what your line is, and you don't really want to know too much more than that. You want to stay on message. But I hope on the show that we expand into a little bit more information and look at policies and stuff. And the more I study it, the bigger conservative I am. So it's not always been the case, but I know why, and am increasingly convinced that I made the right turn at an early age.
Did you ever vote for a Democrat?
I voted for Jimmy Carter.
And were you disappointed that you had as his presidency went on?
Well, by the time his presidency was half over, I was way into my study. And I was in graduate school, and by 1978, I was a full-fledged philosophical conservative. So my disappointment had little to do with him, and my change had everything to do with what I had learned in the interim.
We're with Mary Matalin at 1-800-952-2788. Back with Mary and you on the toll-free lines right after these messages.